Hello, everyone. I'm Melissa Cropper, President of the Ohio Federation of Teachers. Recently, OFT endorsed Michelle Flanigan to run for STRS board. We want to take a few minutes today to share with you why we endorse Michelle Flanigan for this position and to give her an opportunity to answer some questions that she has been asked before so that you can make an informed decision yourself on who you want to vote for in this election. So let me start now by introducing you to Michelle. Michelle, thank you for joining us today and for taking the time to talk to our members and to other people who are voting for this election. Why don't we just start out by you telling us who you are, a little bit about your background, and why you wanted to run for STRS board.
Well, thank you, Melissa, and thank you, OFT, for your confidence and endorsement. Um, my name is Michelle Flanigan. I have been teaching for 26 years. I teach at Brunswick High School in Medina County. I teach government, economics, and financial literacy. Before I became a teacher, I spent 10 years as a financial analyst for American Greetings Corporation in Cleveland. About 3 years ago, I attended a conference with economics teachers from across the country. And in the evening, the conversation turned to retirement benefits. And I was surprised to hear the wide variety of retirement plans that were out there for teachers. But the nagging question that kept going through my mind was, why do other plans still offer lower years of service and a COLA while STRS does not? So when I got home from that class, I started digging for information, and over the past 3 years have educated myself on issues at STRS, and finally thought, well, if I believe, which I do, that improvements can be made, then it's time for me to run for a board seat.
But thank you, Michelle. We certainly are glad that you just made that decision to run. And this is a seat for an active member. And it's really important that we have people who are ready to step up and take on this position and to be an advocate for all of us who pay into the system. So I just want to ask you a few questions. In 2012, STRS made substantive changes to the plan for contributing members and retirees that increased the age and years of service to receive full retirement benefits. It also changed contribution rates for active members from 10% to 14%. How did that impact you personally? And what do you want to do as a board member to address those issues?
Okay. I think these changes not only impacted me, but impacted all teachers in a huge way. Teaching is a demanding profession, as we know. It takes a lot physically, mentally, emotionally. And when after 3 decades of teaching, most teachers have given all that they have to give. Yet, when these changes came about, they extended the years of service for a full retirement for an active teacher. In my personal case, that would mean teaching till I'm 65 years old. My previous plan was to retire at 62 years of age with 30 years of service and 66% of my salary. Now, if I try to retire at 30 years of service, I'm hit with harsh early retirement penalties that mean I would retire with 50% of my salary. So it's very impactful financially for teachers. In the same way, increasing that contribution rate, savings for retirement is important, but when teachers are giving 14% of their salary already to their retirement plan, that leaves little extra for them to save in addition. So without the opportunity to adjust our plans, many of these changes have left teachers financially insecure and facing a retirement that they're not very sure about. I just feel these changes were unjust to do to teachers in the middle of their careers without considering the impact on their financial futures.
So as part of your campaign, then you're advocating that we really look hard at these particular issues, these benefits that have been taken away, and work to restore them in a fiduciary in accordance with your fiduciary responsibility.
Yes, absolutely. I think we really need to look at restoring or getting as close to what teachers were promised as possible. And part of that involves lowering years of service and providing a inflation protection for teachers once they are retired. And I think the first step we can take to doing that is challenging the current board's um, closed funding policy. And that means that the board is STRS is tasked with achieving 100% funding status within a fixed 30-year time frame. And right now we're 11 years out from 100% funded. But funding status is only one measure of the health of a pension fund. And it's also just a point in time. It can change as the markets go up and down. So by by asking the consulting actuaries to adjust that close funding policy and perhaps lengthen the period from 11 years to maybe 14 or 15 years, that could free up a significant amount of funds for benefit restoration. In November of 2023, STRS's actuaries estimated that going to 14 or 15 years until fully funded would free up around $4 billion, yet still maintain the fiscal integrity of the fund.
Thank you. I really appreciate the approach that you take in terms of asking for staff to look at different possibilities, asking, kind of challenging a little bit the status quo, and just asking staff to look at different possibilities and see how they would play out. Now, a recent report shows that STRS spends over $600 million in fees. What are your views about reducing fees?
I think STRS can do better in the fee section. In December of 2023, in an effort to increase their transparency, STRS brought in a company called Allburn Consulting. And this company looks at the fees that funds pay for private equity investments. And that's where that $600 million number was discovered. That is STRS's fees just on private equity investments. When you combine that with the other 300 million that we pay in investment fees, we are looking at about 900 million a year. I think there's savings that can be investigated here by moving out of the private equity funds and moving that money into more low cost index type investment. If you just use STRS's self-reported 10-year return rate, that move could generate about $1.3 billion in savings, and then that money can be used for benefits. So if I would be elected as a board member, I would urge the investment staff to consider these shifts and analyze what savings could be found.
Thank you, Michelle. Now, you have brought out several issues that all of us are concerned about, and you've talked a little bit about solutions that you would like for staff to investigate, some changes that could be made to the system. Now, those of us sitting out here who rely on these benefits often get impatient and want things to happen overnight. Could you talk to us about what do you think is a realistic timeline for making some of these structural changes that you're talking about?
Well, I think the challenging of the funding period and asking the actuaries to look at different options and different adjustments to assumptions, I think that can take place right away. Those are policies that can be adjusted and changed after discussion and analysis. So if we can start revising those assumptions this summer and fall, by next spring, I believe that we can look at restoring benefits under new assumptions and that benefit restoration is possible by March of 2025. On the other hand, I just talked about the shift from private equity into more indexed investments. Private equity contracts are long-term in nature, and this would require some careful planning and discussion and research and analysis. So that shift would likely take multiple years. However, the conversations and the possibilities could start being discussed now so that we can move toward a lower cost investment portfolio.
Thank you. Again, you have demonstrated to us that you are a person who does research, who checks into information, and who tries to stay informed about issues. How will you continue to learn about pension policy once you are on the board?
I am, in the past 3 years, I have dug into just on my own the issues at STRS, and I would continue with that dedication by looking at the annual reports of other funds, their investment summaries, their actuarial forecasts, comparing them to STRS. But I realized that as a board member, the skill set needed is even further. So I would welcome opportunities for advanced professional development in areas of pension management. I know that our current board members really benefited from the highly regarded training that they received from the National Institute on Retirement Security. And I would welcome opportunities like that so I could increase my knowledge and be a more effective contributor on the board.
Thank you. And I know when I was talking to you prior to actually giving you an endorsement, I mentioned that AFT also provides professional development opportunities. I'm sure many of our members don't even realize that AFT has a trustee council. And of course, we would make all that information available to you also with the expertise of AFT pension people that we would love for you to tap into also.
That'd be great. That'd be great. Thank you.
Now, in the past few years, as you know, because you have been a supporter, OFT has endorsed candidates who have been successful in winning seats on the STRS board. And of course, we plan to be successful again and getting you elected to the board also. But what changes have you seen happen with the board since these new voices have been elected?
I think the OFT candidates on the board, the difference is they are very willing to engage with the consultants and the staff. If you watch, as an active teacher, I've only been able to attend a few meetings because I'm usually teaching during the meetings, but you can watch the meetings on recorded video. And these members are willing to question and ask for further explanation, and this has led to discovery and improvements and a better understanding of how our pension fund works for all our members. I think this leads to more accountability as well. So it's nice to see people not just sitting back in agreement, but taking an active role as a fiduciary on that board. Also, as I mentioned before, the board members have encouraged increased transparency. So now they requested, and STRS complied with having all the back meetings and materials archived on STRS's website. So active teachers who are working during the day can go back and look at the materials or watch the videos after school or on the weekends. Also, more importantly, I think the changes we've seen over the past 3 years since these new board members have taken their seats, we've seen a reduction in years of service from 35 down to 34. We've seen 2 COLAs granted. We've seen improvement in the stipends given for healthcare for early retirees. And all this has been done while still maintaining a safe and solvent pension fund. So these board members are working hard to represent the interests of the members, and I am committed to working with them collaboratively, and I look forward to being part of the conversation with the staff, with the other board members to continue to improve benefits for our members.
Thank you, Michelle. So again, Michelle is the endorsed candidate of the Ohio Federation of Teachers. To receive that endorsement, she with our retirement committee, us with me personally, and she was voted on by our executive council. So she has been. And again, we highly encourage all our members, as well as all people who pay into the system, to give their vote to Michelle during this election cycle, which is happening right now. Now, we recognize that some people may still have some questions that they want to ask you, where they can find more information about you, and how they can contact you if they would like to talk with you.
Sure, they can find more information. I've had a website publicly out there because I want everyone to know my platform and plans. If you just go to www.michelleflanigan, and that's Flanigan, so www.michelleflanigan.com. You can find my contact info on my website. You can find my platform, my plans to get there, my comparisons to other pension plans, some questions and answers. So it is there, and I hope people will access it and make an educated vote.
Thank you. Please check your mail for your ballots. You should have received a ballot by now. Also, check your email for information for more information from OFT about the election and how to vote, what to do if you haven't received your ballot, etc. And make sure you get that vote in for Michelle Flanigan. Thank you again, Michelle, for joining us.
Thank you, Melissa.